The wind moved softly across the silent hills. It carried no laughter, no footsteps, no voices of brothers walking side by side, only stillness. On a lonely rise overlooking the valley, Adam, alayhis salam, sat motionless. His eyes were fixed on the land below, the very ground where blood had first touched the earth. The soil had long absorbed it. The wind had erased its scent. But memory does not fade as quickly as blood. This was the place where Habil had fallen, the first son of humanity to return to his creator, the first life taken by the hand of man. Adam, alayhis salam, felt the weight of something no human had ever felt before him, the grief of losing a child to violence, not to illness, not to time, but to hatred born within the human heart. He had seen the signs before, the tightening jaw of Qabil, the restless silence, the fire of jealousy that flickered in his eyes when Habil's sacrifice was accepted. Adam alayhis salam had warned them, he had taught them, he had reminded them that Allah sees what is hidden within the chest. But now the lesson had come at a price, a terrible price. The valley felt heavier than before. Creation itself seemed to mourn. Even the birds avoided the place. It was as though the earth had learned something new, something dark, and it did not yet know how to carry it. Adam alayhis salam closed his eyes. He remembered Habil's gentleness, his obedience, the calm certainty in his voice when he had said to his brother, "If you raise your hand against me to kill me, I shall not raise my hand against you. I fear Allah, the Lord of the worlds." Such words, from a heart free of pride. A tear slipped down Adam's face. Prophets are chosen by Allah. They are given knowledge, strength, and patience beyond ordinary measure. But they are also human. They feel hunger, they feel exhaustion, and they feel grief. Adam alayhis salam had already endured exile from paradise. He had felt the pain of regret after the first human mistake. He had wept upon the earth in repentance. He had learned how fragile obedience can be when temptation whispers. But this was different. This was not his own slip. This was the consequence of free will misused by his own child. The first bloodshed in human history. And in that moment, Adam alayhis salam understood something profound. Grief alone cannot save a soul. Tears cannot undo a crime. Regret cannot resurrect the dead. Only guidance can protect what remains. He opened his eyes and looked toward the sky. The narrator whispers slowly, reflectively, but they turned to Allah, not to despair. And Adam alayhis salam would do what prophets always do in the face of darkness. He would turn back to the one who never fails. Night descended gently over the hills. Stars emerged, silent witnesses to human sorrow. Adam alayhis salam stood alone beneath the vast sky, the same sky that had once covered him in Jannah, the same sky beneath which he had first called upon Allah after descending to earth. Slowly he lowered himself to the ground. His knees pressed into the soil. His hands rose toward the heavens, and the Father of humanity bowed before his Lord. There was no pride in his posture, no resistance, only humility. "Oh Allah," his voice trembled. He did not blame Qabil alone. He did not curse fate. He did not question divine wisdom. Instead, he acknowledged the truth, that humanity had been given a gift unlike any other creation, free will, and free will carries consequence. He wept not only for Habil, but for what this moment signified. If jealousy could lead to murder in the first generation, what would happen in the generations to come? He saw in his mind a future he could not fully grasp, cities rising and falling, wars waged, hearts hardened by greed, tears shed by mothers yet unborn. The weight of humanity's future pressed upon him. "Oh Allah," he whispered, voice breaking, "guide my children, protect them from the darkness within themselves. Teach them mercy when anger rises. Teach them justice when pride blinds them." This was not a prayer of despair. It was a prayer of responsibility. Adam alayhis salam understood something essential. Repentance is not merely regret over what has passed. It is a commitment to prevent its repetition. He admitted the shortcomings of humanity. He acknowledged that without divine guidance, the human heart could easily be led astray. This was the first formal lesson in repentance, a direct communication between humanity and the Creator. No intermediaries, no rituals of pride, only sincerity. He remembered the words Allah had taught him after his own mistake in paradise, words of humility and hope. And just as Allah had accepted his repentance then, Adam alayhis salam trusted that Allah would guide his descendants now. The night grew deeper, but something had shifted. Where grief had weighed heavily, hope now flickered, because repentance opens a door that sin tries to close.
and Adam alayhi salam would ensure that door remained open for all of humanity. Morning light spread across the valley. Life continued, as it always does. Adam alayhi salam gathered his remaining children. Their faces carried confusion, fear, and questions they did not know how to ask. They had witnessed something unimaginable, a brother killing a brother, trust shattered, innocence wounded. Adam alayhi salam looked at them carefully. These were not just his children. They were the beginning of every nation that would ever exist. He sat among them, not as a king, not as a judge, but as a father and a prophet. My children, he began gently, Allah has honored you with choice. You are not forced like the wind. You are not bound like the stars. You choose. They listened in silence. Free will is a gift, but it is also a test. He explained how jealousy had grown silently in Qabil's heart, how pride feeds on comparison, how anger when left unchecked blinds the mind. Do not let your desires overpower your heart, he warned. Desire can whisper that you deserve more, that you are better, that you are wronged, but your heart must remain anchored to what pleases Allah. He taught them that guidance is not automatic, it must be sought. He reminded them that Allah sees intentions before actions, that justice is not revenge, that strength is not domination, that true honor lies in obedience to the Creator. The children absorbed his words. In their eyes flickered understanding, small, fragile, but real. Adam alayhi salam did not hide the consequences of Qabil's act. Wrongdoing leaves a mark, he said solemnly. It shapes the world around you. It changes hearts. It brings sorrow that cannot easily be erased. But he also spoke of hope. Repentance is powerful, he said, but it must be sincere. Allah is merciful beyond measure, yet do not test that mercy with arrogance. These lessons were not abstract philosophy. They were survival instructions for humanity. In that gathering, on that simple patch of earth, the foundations of morality were laid. Not written in books, not carved into stone, but spoken from a father's heart to his children, and carried forward in memory. Seasons began to change. The valley grew greener. Children matured into adults. Life spread outward from that single family. One by one, they dispersed across the land, carrying with them seeds, tools, and something even more important, knowledge. Adam alayhi salam watched as they journeyed beyond the hills. Each step they took carried both potential and risk. He knew now that sin would not vanish from the earth. The consequences of Qabil's act remained. Death had entered human experience. Violence had shown its face, but guidance had also been planted. Humanity had learned 3 truths that would echo through time. Wrongdoing has lasting consequences. Repentance is powerful, but must be sincere. Divine guidance is the key to survival and morality. These were not temporary lessons. They were the first spiritual inheritance of mankind. Adam alayhi salam felt a quiet acceptance settle within him. He could not control every choice his descendants would make, but he could teach them, he could remind them, he could pray for them, and ultimately, he could trust Allah's wisdom. The future was not erased. It was written, with both trials and mercy intertwined. The sun dipped low on the horizon. Golden light stretched across the valley, casting long shadows. Adam alayhi salam stood at the edge of a hill, watching in silence as his children's figures moved in the distance, building, planting, learning, living. Life had not stopped. It had transformed. He understood now that the world would never return to the innocence it once knew. But he also understood something deeper. The human heart is resilient. It breaks, but it can heal. It falls, but it can rise. The narrator, softly. The first sin taught us fear. The repentance taught us hope. Adam alayhi salam raised his gaze toward the horizon. Beyond the hills lay generations he would never meet. Prophets who would come after him. Nations that would rise and fall. Battles between truth and falsehood. Moments of darkness and moments of extraordinary light. His story was not ending. It was beginning something far greater. As the final rays of sunlight disappeared, Adam alayhi salam whispered a final prayer for his descendants. That they would remember. That they would return. That they would choose guidance over pride.